In case you didn't hear me, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Longfellow, if you would like to sing our national anthem, please.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. Quand se porte le pays, il se porte la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
What's that? Yes. Joe, thank you very much again for being with us. We very much appreciate your...
And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, are there any introduction of addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
May I have a motion to confirm the agenda? Moved by Mrs. Kenny. Councillor Damaris. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any disclosures of interest? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest in item number 6 as I represent the real estate brokerage that handled the transaction.
Anyone else? I would also declare a conflict in item number 6. I live in close proximity to the subject property, and accordingly we'll just not vote on that issue. Now, we're looking at the items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak to item 3, please.
Item 3, yes.
And I guess I'll pull item 6 as well for the councillors and your contact.
Thank you. Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak to item 3 as well.
Councillor May.
I will do item 1 and item 2, please.
Item 1 and 2, thank you. Are there any others? There being none, I'd ask for a motion to approve the committee items not requiring separate discussion. Moved by Councillor Butter, seconded by Councillor Kenny. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We don't have any presentations this evening, Madam Clerk? Under item 1?
Not at this point in the agenda.
Okay. Are there any delegations there? Not actually a delegation, but Mr.
Yes, here under item 2.
Okay. Okay. Then we'll move on to Mayor's report. Just a matter of interest, I hosted Mr. Fred Fox, who is a brother of the late Terry Fox, the fellow gentleman who lost his leg for cancer and started a run across Canada. Unfortunately, was cut way too short because of the return of his disease. He's a very interesting gentleman. I had a delegation of students from the Caribbean island of Dominica, a delegation of students who had come to Port Colborne for 3 weeks. We also participated in a tour of the Goderich elevator, which was very interesting after having watched or looked at it for a lifetime. And finally toured it. The facility is owned by by the city, as you know. And I brought greetings on behalf of City Council at the opening of the Port Colborne Festival of Arts. Mr. Barrick, you're with us for the Regional Council's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a record for me to be standing here in the first 10 minutes of a meeting, so that's appreciated. I wanted to bring this council up to speed on a couple of government relations initiatives that the region is moving forward with this term. Many may be familiar with the GO advocacy that the region has been targeting the province on, as well as all local municipalities are in agreement behind it. And so the Niagara GO Rail business plan was released today, and the public can certainly view it at niagarago.ca. And so I wanted to bring folks up to speed a little bit on that. I'm not going to go at length here, but I did want to let the council public know that it is up and it is available. But that's just one of the many government relations items that we are planning on putting resources behind. At the February 5th Regional Council meeting, we established strategic priorities for the balance of the term. There's a sort of change in philosophy from Niagara Week once a year to Niagara Week every week. And so part of that is a narrower focus to achieve certain results on deliverables. We've categorized them in 4 categories: promotion, collaboration, education, and targeted advocacy on priority issues for the region. There is a report coming up as part of our business planning session this Thursday to look at a few items in particular. Number 1, of course, the provincial commitment to GO Rail expansion. That business plan is done and meetings are set with the Premier and Cabinet Ministers. We also want to highlight mitigating negative impacts on policies on electrical energy. Certainly it's something that's been talked about, I believe, at this council, and certainly at the regional level, both this term and last term. A federal commitment to foreign trade zone designation in the Niagara region. Influence provincial plans to address the needs of Niagara businesses and residents. Provincial commitment to planning for the Niagara GTA corridor. That's an item that's been discussed at length. It's not on the radar for the province. We want to put it back on the radar. Provincial commitment to increased homelessness funding. Mitigating negative impacts on provincially significant wetlands legislation, and supporting the completion of significant development projects. Each one of those items do have a plethora of supporting material behind it. I won't get into greater detail here today because it will be up for discussion this Thursday. But I did want to bring this council up to speed, and I'm happy to take any questions as always, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Members of Council, any questions for Mr. Barrick? Yes, Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. I noticed the province came out with their plan for expanding transportation and expanding the GO train area, and they talk about going, I believe, all the way up to Guelph and things like that. But the Niagara Peninsula seemed to be missing out of that report. Do we have a rationale, or has the region been told that, yeah, you guys are on it, so we didn't have to do that? I'm just trying to figure out the rationale behind it, because we're putting such a big push, and I'm sure they were aware of that. Why was the Niagara Peninsula missed in that particular report? And that was, I believe, about a month ago when that came out. So, and since you're talking about it, I thought maybe you might have an answer to that, because I haven't been able to get anyone to give me an answer to that.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Appreciate the question. Again, I'm probably not the best person to answer that question. Probably Minister Bradley would be the best person to answer that question. He was one of the biggest advocates in Niagara for that. He sits at the council and cabinet table there. And we continue to work collaboratively with him to that end. What I've been told when I asked the same question, Councillor Doucette, is that funding is available in the budget. We have to apply for it. And certainly that's what we're going to do. We're going to utilize this business case. We do have those meetings set up. They've been set up for a couple of months now at the province's request, those dates. And so as far as the region is concerned, we've checked off those boxes. We would have liked to see greater news, but it's not ruled out either. They're saying the money's there. apply for it. And that's what we're doing.
Any other questions of Councillor Barrick? Yes, Councillor May.
The police station, I know that's going to stay open for another 4 years, but what else has changed? Because I noticed quite a police presence in Port Colborne now that I haven't noticed in all the years that I've lived here. They seem to be everywhere. Have they changed the way they do things in Port Colborne?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I can certainly take that question back to the Police Services Board, Councillor Main. Outside of facilities, and as you've noted, that's secured for the 4 years. When you get into the operational side and adequacy standards, that's something that usually isn't talked about publicly in terms of how many officers are on the street at any given time, et cetera. But with regards to your particular question was there a change? I will certainly ask that and get back to this council. I don't believe so, but I will check with the police chief.
Councillor May.
I didn't, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Barrick, I didn't mean it negatively. I just think it's a great idea. It seems to be we're going in the right direction there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barrick. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Dave. I was up at St. Catharines yesterday and noticed driving through a couple of neighborhoods. Around the school zones, they have the new solar-powered flashing signs for 40K. And prominently displayed on the signs, it says Niagara Region. There's a little blurb on it about going green and whatnot. Is that an initiative through the region? Do you have to apply for that? Or is that in collaboration with the City of St. Catharines? They did it, and did the region throw some money towards it? It would be interesting to know for some of the zones around our schools as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I know that on regional roads, we've utilized that technology in more rural areas. The school zones, I'm not sure. You're mentioning that's in St. Catharines. I can certainly follow up as well, see if there's partnership dollars for local municipal roads. That would be news to me, but there may be funding partnerships available there, so I'll use that as a takeaway as well and get back to this council.
Thank you. Mr. Barrick, are any further questions of Mr. Barrick? There being none, thank you, Mr. Barrick, for your attendance and advice this evening. Are there any reports or comments from members of council this evening? Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask for a leave of council to deal with one item. There's being a grant application being put forward by the between Friends of Roselawn and CAN, which is the artists group that they work with, and it's all in partnership with Port Colborne High School as well. And what they're putting a grant forward for is to do 2 4x4 murals that they want the students would do them, and they would create them, and then they want to be able to attach them to what is the garage at Roselawn on the north side that faces Port High. So they need our blessing to kind of go forward with that grant application. It's a great idea, I think, involving the students. They're gonna create it, they're gonna put it up, they're gonna maintain it. I think it's really a win-win all the way around, and so I'd like that support of council so that they can kind of proceed with that grant application in an expeditious manner. Thank you.
Are you going to move that motion, Councillor Butters? And seconded by Councillor Desmarais. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Bodner.
Thank you. Sounds like a great initiative. I just wondered whether, because Harry is there, deeply involved in that, is there any concern, about putting it on the side of the garage or anything? It'd be nice if we could make this work somehow.
Through your worship to Councillor Bodner. I've had some discussion with Canada Artists Niagara about this, and in fact support the idea of murals, but as long as they have a pretty comprehensive program, and I know they're working on a program where there's going to be an element of maintenance and upkeep and things of that nature, so we need to see that as well. I think the initiative is well worth supporting, in my view, but again, it's council's wish to take it further. I would like to see some of those policies and practices in place to kind of help us, because there's some elements that perhaps can lend itself to other forms of art that sometimes might be a negative influence. But I think this is going in the right direction as long as they make it a comprehensive program, which I think they will, based on what I've heard.
Councillor Wagner, you content? Any other comments? Any questions? Councillor Demery?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just actually would like to bring some attention to this council about the work that's being done in our ward. Councillor Doucette and I are really quite pleased with the efforts of the Poor Cares Reach Out Centre, who got many volunteers together on Earth Day and did a community cleanup on the south end of the ward. An amazing job. It looks really great, and they're doing great work. It's really good to see this the effort being put forward. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demery. I thought you were going to be speaking on Councillor Butter's motion, but we're happy to take your comment in the interim. Councillor Butter.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've got to vote on the leave first.
Yep.
Vote on the leave first and then on her motion, which I'm in favor of, but on the leave first. Thank you.
Can we call the question on the leave to deal with this motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? No. We have a seconder for that? Yes. Councillor Kenny? Again, this is the motion for, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're speaking about Roselawn, it just popped in my mind. I asked this through to Mr. Hakeem. Structural issues on the south side of the building, underneath the window. The bricks are compromised. Where do we stand on that? We get a cost estimate to repair, replace. Obviously, being with a heritage designation on the building, I would assume that we're going to have to replace or repair the bricks in a certain fashion. Are we looking into that? I know it's probably going to incorporate into the window as well, so I know that it looks really bad when you drive by. I just wondered how bad it really is.
I wonder whether this question should be or could be directed to Ron Hansen.
We have discussed it amongst ourselves as staff. It was identified, I believe, through some community members through the CAO who directed us to go further and investigate. And from what I've learned through working with Ron's crew in engineering and operations is that it's not so much a structural issue, it's more aesthetics the way it is, but it does definitely need repair. There is a certain amount of capital that's been approved by council for repairs and maintenance to the Roselawn Centre, the heritage component of the house. There's some elements that we've identified. That is one of them that will be looked into and perhaps repaired at some point this year. But we'll be working very closely with the engineering staff to deal with that problem.
Okay. Councillor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a request from a citizen. I've been contacted by a few citizens who often take the bus and come into town later on in the evening. And one of the issues they have is that they need a phone, a pay phone, to be able to call a taxi to get home. They have no vehicle, they have nothing. And what they're telling me is that there is essentially no payphone in the area where the bus comes in. Therefore, I'm just wondering, is there a way we can contact Bell? Is there someone else we can contact to get a form of payphone? Should we put one here where the bus drops off? I think we need to find some kind of a service. This one individual that contacted me, she has no family, she has no one else here. It's either she finds a way to call them, which means sometimes she can't and she walks home way on the other side, way on the east side. So there's an issue there that is that's developing for some citizens. So I was just curious to see if there's anything we can do to help.
Thank you, Mr. Doucette. CEO Heil, do you have a comment on this?
Your Worship, there's a payphone just over here on West Street, just on the side of the, right by the Harbor Master. There's a payphone there, the blue light on the top.
Okay, I'll mention it.
Thank you.
No?
Councillor Maine?
I think if you use the phone with a blue light on it, you'll find it's a C-Wave phone. for transient voters when they go through and they go and pay. So you can go use that phone if you like, but I don't think you're gonna raise the bridge for you. But having said that, Mr. Mayor, most of the payphones, I just read an article, are done by credit card or debit now.
Yeah.
Because they found that the ones with coin don't last long on the street for very long, so that could be an issue too. But a lot of people don't have credit cards.
Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we couldn't get a payphone installed, there is a possibility of getting the direct taxi lines installed like they have in the grocery stores. Just pick it up and it calls directly to the taxi line. It may be an answer.
Councillor Butters, did you have a comment, or Councillor Kenny?
I was just going to tell you to walk around the corner. Councillor Gisette, the taxi stand's right there.
That's true.
Block and a half.
She's here. All she goes walk in the corner.
I've already mentioned that.
Thank you for your intervention, Councillor Doucette.
She could call the Seaway.
Councillor Bodnar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wonder if I might just put on another hat. I'm on the board of United Way South Niagara, and as many of you have read, and a lot of people, that we reached our campaign goal this year for the first time in a number of years. And that being said, that's a great thing, and a lot of money comes back into the city of Port Colborne. What I'd really like to do is thank the residents of Port Colborne who supported United Way, and in particular, the people that work at City Hall that chose to have their money taken off their wages and directed towards United Way. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to those individuals and other people at City Hall that have donated, and I just thought they should be recognized for the good work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. Any other interventions, questions? Do members of staff have any response to any previous inquiries? At another time? There being none, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes of the 11th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole of April 13th, 2015. Is there a mover? Councillor Kenny? Seconder? Councillor Danch? Any discussion? There being none, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now, moving on to consideration of those items requiring a separate discussion. Councillor Main, you declared item number 1.
The Department of the Chief Administrative Officer, Special Projects and Corporate Strategic Initiative Division, report number 2015-72, subject stopping up and closing the part of the 2 on-open road allowances, Kleinsmith Road, on Kleinsmith Road. The Council approves for enactment the draft bylaw attached hereto as Attachment D, which provides for the stopping up and closing off. Number 1, the portion of the unimproved, untraveled portion of the original road allowance between Lot 16 and 17, Concessions 5, in the former geographical township of Humberston, now in the city of Port Colborne and municipality known as an unimproved, untraveled portion of Kleinsmith Road, immediately south of the Town Line Tunnel lands and designated as Part 10 of the reference plan 59R-15312, dated March the 18th, 2015. The parcel is a landlocked parcel north of the road allowance, closed by bylaw 3412/143/196, and registered as instrument number RD7 19834 during construction of the Welland Canal bypass. Number 2, the portion of the unimproved and untraveled portion of the original road allowance between Lot 24 and 25, Concession 4 north of the road allowance between Concession 3 and 4 south of the Welland Canal, in the former geographical township of Humberston, now in the city of Port Colborne, designated as Parts 1, 7, and 8 on the reference plan 59R-153/196 dated March the 18th, 2015.
Thank you, Mr. Main. I just would point out that the bylaw number that you made reference to, which was actually registered, was number RO 719-834. I think you said RD. Just want to make sure that's.
Thank you for that,
correct
Mr. Mayor. I stand corrected.
So do I about the phone.
Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Elliott? At this point, we'd move into a public meeting to discuss this road closure. And I call on CAO Heil to make a presentation.
Your Worship, through the report is filed. It's part of the process in the closing of an Ion property. It was offered for sale. It was part of the purchase and sale agreement. It is owned by the city. And the only difference here is that the property to be sold still registered as a roadway under the original service, under the original purchase and sales agreement. This piece of property, which is the part 2, is sold, but it needs to be closed as a road. Hence the reason that this is before you this evening. It's not improved and serves only the purpose, and we actually all thought it was part of the closed property. This part 1, Your Worship, members of council, is the very top end. The top line that you see there is the top of the brow that drops down into the tunnel, the railway tracks. That's that very top end. The pink portion, again, was offered for sale and is conveyed at the end of April, but this portion is still designated as a public road and also needs to be closed. It's landlocked. It serves no purpose either. Below this, there will be another bylaw coming forward in respect of the Kleinsmith issue, which was also addressed at your meeting last week. So this process, Your Worship, is just to close these 2 road allowances that are actually part of the purchase and sale agreement to sell, which is approved by council.
Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Is there anyone in the body of the council chambers who have any comments or questions on the proposal in question? Okay. Let us perhaps now close the meeting and call for the question on the actual recommendation. All those have any questions? No questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Item number 2. Mr. Main, you also requested that item to be considered?
Do you want this posted? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Department of Planning and Development Report number 2015-55, subject parking and traffic on West Street. The Council of the City of Port Colborne approves an amendment to the bylaw 89-2000, being a bylaw regulating traffic and parking on city roads as follows. The Schedule E limited parking restrictions to the bylaw 89/2000 be amended by deleting therefore the following. Column 1. I should be in column 2 here.
West side of West Street.
Okay, highway side okay, here it is. From West Street to Kent Street, Victoria, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, 1 hour. West Street,
Monday to Sunday, I believe, Mr. Main.
Monday to Sunday, okay. West Street, East Kent, Victoria, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Sunday, 1 hour. That's Schedule E, limited parking restrictions to bylaw 89-2000 as amended, be amended by adding thereto the following. West Street, both sides from Kent Street to Victoria Street, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Sunday, 2 hours.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Councilor Bodnar? I understand in the body of the council, Mr. Sibley, would you like to come forward and make a presentation? Just take, there's a little red button there I'd ask you to push. And can I have your full name and address, sir, for the record?
My name is Cliff Sibley, and I live at 144 West Street, Port Colborne. May I extend a word of appreciation and a good evening to your worship and to members of the council, and thank you for this opportunity to come and speak. It set me back a little bit in how I understand what was just presented, because it certainly isn't to my satisfaction, I don't believe. However, I would like to make my statement here. Our goal, my wife, 18-year-old daughter, is to have some consideration for a change in parking, and certainly more than 1 hour, because 1 hour makes little difference for the overall impact of restrictions when our home is on that street and our comings and goings are on that street. It would be prudent of me now to mention that I have the support of our neighbors at 140 and 148 West Street. Neighbors to include Wendy and Rex Harrison, Debbie and Jim Wakanuk, and Brandy and Ian Desmarais, who feel the same need for a change, the change as I will put forth. We purchased our building in 1998 as a triplex. We've done a great deal of work to it. If you're familiar with it, you will have noticed. I don't look for praise for me or for my wife, but we have taken a great deal of pride in that building. It is presently used as a duplex, but in the near future will return to use as a triplex. That does and will present many problems concerning parking. We provide 2 parking spaces at the rear of our building, at the back of it, for 2 vehicles. We need 3 and soon to be 4 parking spaces to accommodate our tenants and for us. We have 3 drivers in our immediate family. My daughter, my wife, and I are all driving with 2 vehicles. Neighbors to the north have an infant daughter. Neighbors to the south have teenage children, or soon to be in one case. Loading and unloading everything from children to groceries to hockey equipment to strollers is infinitely easier at the front door. And it's not an extra that we're asking, it's just plain old common sense that we can come and go from our front door without concern of violation of parking restrictions. We don't believe that's too much to ask. Further support to what I'm saying is that we've been on that street for 18 years. We purchased a rundown, abandoned old building, and we've done, as I've stated, a great deal to make it a very viable building on West Street. And during that time, we have never once noticed a lack of parking on that street for any patron. There is adequate parking. And on more than one situation, in one case, the north or the east side of West Street, almost every situation is never used. They're used very seldom down our end, which is between Kent Street and Victoria. The west side is used more often, but still never a lack of parking. And we don't sit at our front window and look out, but we certainly are aware of the traffic flow and the traffic parking. Never a concern for parking. We again believe this to be a reasonable request, that we have some consideration beyond an increase of 1 hour of legitimate parking. And I don't want to get into parking because that's a whole nother, parking enforcement, because that's a whole nother issue that I would like to speak on. But it's not that I'm critical of it, it's just that it's a very open-ended criticism-based, complaint-based system, where if there is a complaint, then someone's sent out, if that someone is in the city on that particular day, to enforce it. So it leaves us really not knowing, should we leave our vehicle there? Yeah, 9 times out of 10 we can leave it there, never a bother. But that 1 time out of 10, we're ticketed on that vehicle. In closing, may I sum up? It's a given that we will continue to respect road maintenance needs for West Street. Snow plowing needs, street cleaning needs. We're the first to get out there and move our vehicles if we suspect there's a need. We won't park on that street when there's a heavy snowfall predicted. We will not. We'll park illegally somewhere else. And illegally is in the church parking lot behind our home. Ample parking, legal? No, we shouldn't be parking in there, nor should we have to park in there, but we do that to respect the needs of the people that are maintaining our city. We continue to believe in the potential of West Street to enhance the city of Port Colborne. We believe in that. We have and we continue to enhance our personal street landscape, street landscape. We are continually trying to, for our benefit primarily, and anyone else who cares to look, we try to improve that look. So we have been giving, and now I must say I'm frustrated, and perhaps my wife and my daughter are too, but when we attempt to park and do normal things that people normally do, which is unload and load and come in and leisurely leave your vehicle there and not have to worry and not have anyone without a parking space. So I think that the legislation is outdated. I think it's flawed, and I think it should be considered differently. And I'm proposing a suggestion. Ultimately, we would like some consideration in the form of a parking permit that would allow our vehicles, or we have 2 vehicles, and we have 2 tenant vehicles at the back, potentially in the near future. We would like to have a parking permit that we can put in our window that says, you may park here. Ultimately, we would even like to have parking for permit holders only, just to consider the few parking spaces in front of our 3 homes and businesses. One is Lakeshore Travel that I spoke of, and they are in support of the change. I don't think it would inhibit the retail end. We have very little retail at our end. We have 3 businesses really within view of our home. And they're never wanting for parking, never. We might come home, we cannot park in front of our home to unload a heavy load of groceries and such. Okay, we'll park across the street, we'll move the vehicle back over. We play this game of cat and mouse, back and forth. Yes, I'm frustrated, and I would like to see further to what is proposed, which I'm afraid is laughable, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, that it goes from 1 hour to 2 hour, which it was at one time, and then not to have enforcement regulated, not to know when we're going to be ticketed, and why not give us just a little bit, give us a permit for a window that will allow us to park there. There are ample spaces. We simply ask for your consideration on that. I'd like to extend a thank you to Sherry Hansen She was the fact gathering and organization person, I believe, behind this law enforcement. I've met with her, and I'd like to thank your worship and members of the council, and I would open it up, if I have the right to any questions. If you'd like to ask me any, I'd be willing to answer.
I'd ask members of council, do they have any questions of Mr. Sibley? Mr. May?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Sibley. Did you ever have a meter in front of your house? Did the meters go down that far?
No.
Okay. Because the way I understand it was when the meters were vandalized a few years back, they took all the meters off of that area and put up the 1 hour parking, and then they increased it to 2 hour parking. But if you never had a meter in front of your house, you never fell under that category of why they replaced the meters with a sign. So are you?
No.
You're probably the first house past where the commercial ends. You're on the south side of Lakeshore Travel. Mm-hmm. So you're residential now. You're not commercial. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much.
No, I understood that the meters were taken out for that very reason of vandalism, just by listening to what's going on in the city. But I didn't know that they were ever on West Street, and they weren't on West Street, I don't believe, after we moved in '98.
Thank you, Mr. Sibley.
Any other questions?
Councillor Elliott?
You may.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Sibley. So you're here asking for 4 parking permits then for the street?
4 or 5. I mean, the neighbor to our south have 2 vehicles. Now, they have off-road parking as well. None of us have driveways. I would say 5. We would need 2, and then 3 others.
3 others, and then
Yes.
anybody to the north side of you as well?
Well, Lakeshore Travel.
Okay.
And yes.
That, and I understand the request.
Yes.
You do realize that you can park on the street for as long as you want after 4 o'clock, because the 2 hours ends at 6 p.m. You could park overnight till 8
Yes.
o'clock in the morning
Yes.
at
We do.
no fear of penalty to you.
No.
And then when you've gone to work, I assume if everybody's going to school or going to work, that the parking doesn't come into play. I guess it's from the BIA perspective and their comments on it, that they didn't want to have permitted parking, was because if we allow permitted parking to you for 4 or 5 spaces, and 2 or 3 other people wanted permitted parking, and now you get 5 or 6 spaces, and then other people wanted permitted parking going down the street. Now you've got everybody asking for permits, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that the bylaw states that when you, residential in that area does not have to have parking spaces for their residences, if I'm on a date of, Dan's gonna explain it to me.
Mr. Aquilina?
Through Mr. Mayor, Councilor Elliott, the zoning bylaw says if you have a residential unit, each unit requires 1 parking space. No parking spaces required for commercial purposes.
I knew you'd have the correct answer, and I apologize for that. And the BIA is against this for the simple fact that we went to 2-hour parking to get turnover so that people wouldn't park and take up spots. And you said, I was under the understanding that you were going to ask for 1 spot. Now that's grown to 5. And I guess one of my questions is, where do the people that want to visit the restaurant across the street at the corner park if residential parking is taking up all the spots right there? And another question that I had that is combined with this, and I'll go up to Dan or to Ron, parking across the street from Allied Marine. Whose parking spaces are those? And then
Mr. Aquilina?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Elliott, those are under lease through the St. Lawrence Seaway. Ally Marine has a lease agreement with the Seaway.
Any other comments or questions?
May I respond, Mr. Mayor? To
Certainly, Mr. Sibley, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Elliott. Dr. Elliott, am I correct? No. No, Mr. Elliott. the concentration of businesses at the north end to the south end, considering ours to be the south end, it is not directly south, but south of the north, is far different. Predominantly, it's retail at the north end. And as you move closer to the south end, to Victoria Street, the businesses wane out, and we do have residences, and a great many. And there's an apartment building just 2-3 north of us, and many drivers in that. Now, adequate parking probably is supplied for that, but some park on the street, and I don't think we can neglect that. Also, restaurant parking is, if you know that restaurant, and we know it because we live beside it, is concentrated between 9 and 12 o'clock in the midday. 9 in the morning, 12 o'clock. It's a breakfast situation, and sometimes they close up in the middle of the afternoon. And never have we seen ever anyone drive away because they couldn't park. There's always parking. Become familiar with that area. If you have the time to look, you'll see the same thing. It's not a question of parking. And the BIA, all very well can have a comment about what should and shouldn't happen. However, the BIA have not, and we are under that legislation, I believe, we have not appreciated the changes that we've seen at the north end. We haven't appreciated the sidewalks, the special lights, the special flower arrangements. We have appreciated none of that. We have lived there 17 years, and we have seen very little improvement other than road and the pathway at the front along the canal. Certainly those things are appreciated. But the BIA can state one thing, and yet who are we to them? We are not even under consideration, nor the businesses that are at our end. Do they appreciate the emphasized enhanced lighting, enhanced sidewalks, enhanced flower arrangements, Christmas decorations? No, nothing comes down our way. So my response through the mayor to you, Mr. Elliott, is that, respectfully. If there are other questions, Your Worship.
Yeah, Councillor Elliott, are you finished?
No, just in response to that, you do realize that you're not part of the BIA, as you're not a commercial.
Well, you
don't pay a portion to the BIA.
Well, it was my understanding the BIA
you are within the boundaries of the BIA.
Boundaries.
But you as a residential property do not contribute any money to the BIA operation.
All right, but Lakeshore Travel does, and
Lakeshore
certainly the
Travel
business
does.
next to us and the restaurant,
Yeah,
more than likely.
You're right.
And they will or will not.
Let's do all the questions through the chair.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, I didn't know if you knew that or not, that you don't contribute to the BIA.
Well, of course
And
we know we
the
don't
BIA
contribute.
has, in the last number of years, tried to be proactive in what they're doing downtown. So it's been a slow process that is ongoing. I could take those concerns from the businesses that are located near you back to our next meeting.
I think that might be appropriate. Mr.
Yeah,
Elliott.
absolutely.
Councillor Desmarais first, and Councillor Main.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, through you to Dan Aquilina for a question and then back for a comment. Dan, do you have an opinion or anything to say about the effect it would have to issue one parking permit per rental or residential unit in this area? Would that have a strangling effect on business or on the street?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Desmarais, I am not sure the total magnitude of how many dwelling units are in that particular block. We've heard tonight that Mr. Sibley may have a total of 4 or 3 spaces. The only thing I can inform council of is we have received complaints. I'm not going to specifically say who, but we've received complaints from commercial businesses about parking spaces not being available for their clients. So in order to do a proper analysis for your question, I would have to actually gauge how many units exist in that particular area, We know that the zoning bylaw says if you're not within 46 meters of a parking space, you have to provide parking for your residential tenants on your property unless those units were in existence prior to 1982. That should be another thing that should be investigated. How do these units appear? Would have to be a further analysis, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Dan. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would like to see this matter deferred to a point in the future where we've had time to actually take a look at this situation in depth and had time to actually strike a realistic balance between the needs of the BIA and the needs of the residents. Because seriously, one should not be more important than the other. So it's time for us to start thinking that way and taking a look at what's happening. So having a deeper look is what I'd like to do, and to defer this until that point.
Are you making a motion?
I am.
Madam Demery?
I am.
Motion to defer? Seconded? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Sibley, we're going to defer the decision on this tonight to have a discussion between perhaps yourself, Mr. Aquilina, the BIA, and perhaps a member of council to discuss it, thrash it out, and see if there can be a mutually acceptable solution to the problem.
Thank you.
And thank you for your attendance here this evening.
Thank you, the council members. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to the next item for discussion, which is item number 3. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Department of Engineering and Operations Division Report number 2015-76. Subject: detailed design study for cogeneration facility at the Vale Health and Wellness Center. That council directs staff to proceed with applying for funding for a detailed design study for a CHP system at the Vale Health and Wellness Center. And that council directs staff, upon successful receipt of funding, to engage NREX Heat and Power to complete the detailed design study. And Mr. Mayor, we have both the president of NREX Heat and Power here, and also is it Managed Cafe, for the roving energy manager of Energy Conservation Program at the CNP, will also be here to give a presentation. Thank you.
Is there a recommendation for that item? Second there for the, is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Emery. Umberto, would you like to come forward and make your presentation? And could we have you both express your names for the record? And I guess you're part of NREC, so
yes,
we don't need your address.
I'm Humberto Gutierrez. I'm president of NREX Heat and Power.
Magic Kafefi, Canadian Agri Power.
Thank you. Go ahead, gentlemen. We have roughly 15 minutes for a presentation if you need it.
John Maloney, members of the council, thank you very much for having us for this presentation. So this presentation, we only have 15 minutes, so I'll try to go fast but as clear as possible. So divided this presentation in 2 parts. The first part is actually talking a little bit about combined heat and power. For those of you that are not really familiar with the concept, I'll be happy to explain that. And then the second part is the situation of Vale Health and Center and the study that we already completed and the study that we could complete if it is approved by the council. So just a small description or definition of what CSP is. CSP stands for Combined Heat and Power, and that is basically, or cogeneration, some people call it cogeneration, and that is a system that provides heat and power at the same time using only a single source of energy. In this case, we're considering using natural gas, which is available in the facility, to produce electricity and to produce heat at the same time. So the heat can be used for space heating. It could be used, usually is used for space heating and domestic hot water, but it could be used for other other uses. You could see on the screen, it's just a graphic, very general description on how the system works. It's nothing but just, it seems like a regular power generator. It works with natural gas, and it has a generator. It will produce electricity for the facility, but at the same time, all the heat that is being produced by the engine is being recovered and used in the boilers, in the mechanical room of the building, so it can be used for space heating and domestic hot water. And by doing that, we reduce the use of the boilers in the mechanical room of the facility. In terms of how efficient a combined heat and power system could be, I'm just showing a graphic representation of the efficiency of a combined heat and power unit, which is about 80 to 90%, and boilers that are already in the facility will have also an efficiency of around 85, 90% as well. So in terms of efficiency, both systems are pretty much the same. But in terms of the value of what you can get out of the natural gas is different. So when using boilers only, what you get is only heat at 80 or 90% efficiency, but only heat. And it has a value, of course. But when you use a combined heat and power, using the same amount of natural gas, you produce heat and produce electricity. But electricity at this moment in Ontario has a higher value than heat. So that's why a combined heat and power will help the facility to save on energy. Any questions so far?
Any questions of council? Not yet. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yes. So why considering CSP right now in Ontario? Well, it's not a secret that electricity rates are going up and will still continue going up. And that's because of the situation that we have in Ontario. And according to the 2013 Ontario's long-term energy plan, we are going to have in the next 5 years, well, that was in 2013, but starting from 2014, in only 5 years, it was expected to rise about 33%, and within the next 20 years, about 55%. That's how the cost of electricity looks like for the following years in Ontario. So that is basically what I wanted to explain about what combined heat and power is. Before going to show the results of the study that we already did in the facility, I would like to ask you, do you have any question at this moment about what combined heat and power is? Yes. Oh.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. This cogen system, how long would that last? And would it handle any expansion that we may have planned for that Bell Center?
Yes. So the lifespan of these units are usually more than 15 years. It could go all the way to 30 years, properly maintained. They're designed to keep running 24/7 for a long time. So with proper maintenance, it can go 15, 20 years, or even more than that.
Councillor Doucette.
And in regards, just to the second question, in regards to the expansion, if you will have an expansion of the facility, yes. So we can add capacity to the unit. We can add another unit if that is the case. But even if another unit is not required, even if you have an expansion, you don't have to have a new combined heat and power system or more capacity. That combined heat and power system will deliver the same efficiency, and all the heat and power that is being produced could be even better utilized if you have an expansion in the building.
Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at this, and this would have been interesting to see maybe 8 years ago when we were planning the valet. Now we're going to add this to a brand new facility, which we just finished. And my concern is This is somewhat old technology. We're still burning fossil fuel. No matter what you say, we're still burning fossil fuel to get this, which means we're adding to our woes here in Ontario, and we're trying to solve them. And for that amount of money, of capital, how can we get the best product with the least amount of carbon footprint? And cogen, I don't see cogen as being the answer. I see solar, wind, combination of, as being the answer to make sure that we are not burning fossil fuels. I'm just concerned that we've just finished a brand new building and now we're going to put this out. The other concern I have is where are we going to put this thing? Where are we going to put this plant? Okay, if we use some of our parking lot, we just finished paving the parking lot and now we're going to turn around and put it back in the parking lot. That's a concern of mine. Okay, we just spent a lot of money on it, now we're doing this. Or where inside the building can we put it? And I don't know if there's any place in the building where this can be placed. So I have a lot of questions. Now, I understand the process. It's not going to cost us a penny for you to do whatever it is you're going to do. And I understand all that. But the bottom line is, I believe for that amount of money, we can get greener electricity for our facility. And we can be an example for other people to see. If we're going to spend this kind of money, let's put it into as green as we can get it. And cogen is not as green as we can get it, after all I'm concerned.
Okay. Councillor Doucette, I think we should hear the entire presentation, and then we'll ask questions instead of interrupting it. Are you in agreement, Council?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I put it out.
But I keep your question in mind, so I can answer those questions at the very end of the presentation.
Thank you.
So the objective of the study that we just finalized was to find out the economic and technical viability of installing a combined heat and power at Valley or Vail Health and Wellness Center. That was the purpose of the study. And these are the results. So before going to the results, let me show you what we have at this moment at Valley. So we have this annual cost right now. We have electricity we are spending about $438,000 a year, and natural gas about $90,000 a year. That's the situation of Valley right now, and so we have a total of $526,000 a year. That's according to the latest numbers that I got from 2014. And also I'm going to show you the two profiles that we have with this what we have in Valley for heat usage in the facility and also electricity usage. So as you can see in the graph on the top shows the profile in which you use the heat in the facility. As you can see, in wintertime it's a peak, of course, we're using a lot of heat for space heating, and summertime decreases, but you still use heat. And again, fall and winter will go up. The blue area shows the electricity requirements for Valley, and so that is pretty stable all year long. So that's basically what we have at this moment. I don't want to confuse you with this. Maybe this is too technical. Try to make it very, very as simple as possible. But you can see the blue squares in that graph, in that representation. The blue squares represent the three main systems, heating systems that Valley has right now. One is domestic hot water boilers. The second one is the space heating system. And the third one is the dehumidifiers that they have, or the ice rings that they have in the facility. So the three main heating systems that we have in Valley right now. So adding a CSP or combined heat and power unit is going to look like this. So we're not moving anything. We're not touching anything that you have right now. We're just adding a piece of equipment, just like another boiler that will provide heat and will help two main heating systems, domestic hot water and the space heating system. We're not going to touch the humidifiers. We don't think it's necessary to do it right now, but those two systems are the main system that we have in Valley. This is just a graphic representation of the power demand that you have right now in Valle. This is a 24-hour data. It's one full day, starting from 12 a.m. and finalizing, from 0 hours to 24 hours. And the black line that you see over there is basically the average of power demand that you have in the facility. This is just to show that the size of the cogeneration system is just below that line. So the system could always be providing, most of the time will be providing electricity to the facility, and you don't have to, it's actually not allowed to feed electricity back to the grid. So all the electricity that is being produced is being consumed at the facility. And this is how the graphs that I showed you before look like after we have a combined heat and power system. So the graph at the top will show you the blue area is the heat that the system is providing. So as you can see, it will cover most of the heat that you are right now requiring. And the graph in the bottom shows the blue area is the electricity that the CSP unit is providing to the facility. And the orange area is the electricity that you still have to get from the grid. So we're not substituting, we're not providing all the electricity that the facility needs, but we're providing perhaps more than 70% of the electricity that the facility needs. This is just numbers about the assumptions that we used, cost of electricity, cost of natural gas, that's what we have right now. And for the 20-year financial analysis, all the assumptions that we did to run the numbers and get the project payback, some sort of basic financial analysis. So after we've done our simulations, we got that, so we evaluated two technologies. The first technology, a 265 kilowatt unit, will provide about $83,000 in annual savings to the facility. And the second option will provide about $56,000. So our recommendation, of course, was the first one. That's what is going to provide most of the savings to the facility. This is just a brief description of the two technologies and what can be achieved or obtained by using both of those technologies. And the one on the top is the one that we're suggesting. And as you can see, we're estimating that the total cost will be around a little bit more than $1 million. But thanks to the PSUI program, the PSUI incentive that we can get from the government that is available right now, we can get up to 40% of the total CapEx on the project from the government because of the process and system upgrade initiative that they have on the Save on Energy program that they have. And so Majet knows that program very well, and because of that mandate that they have to conserve energy, combined heat and power is one of the options that facility has to save on energy based on that program. Majet will be happy to respond to any question that you may have about the program. So just to finalize this slide, you can see at the very right of the table, that's the amount of money that will be saved in the next 15 years. So as you can see, we're expecting to have about $2.3 million on savings for the next 15 years, while the investment will be something around $700,000 or so, if we consider the incentive, of course, that we're going to get from the government.
Okay, are you finished?
We're just about 2 more slides. So this is just pictures of the units. I can show you one that will be more. Just to respond one of the questions that the council had about the size of the unit. So this is photographs of the units that we intend to, or that we are proposing for this facility. The one in the left will be the most appropriate one for this facility. And just to give you an idea, if you know how big a 20-foot container is, that's basically the size of the unit. So it's smaller than the space that we have here in this area. So it's the size of a 20-foot container. It can be, we We spotted a site just beside the building, just outside of the mechanical and the electrical room. We have enough space just where the backup power generator is located right now. Just beside the power generator could be a very good area for the cogeneration unit. As far as I understand, we're not using any parking space in that area.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Doucette, have you had all your concerns responded to?
Not really. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Maybe the CNP representative, and I don't want to say your name wrong, okay? So, because we know each other a bit. Looking at the funds that would be put out for this, putting up a solar panel unit or wind generation of some kind, and I don't know if that's even possible on our building, but if we look at the cost of that equal to this, are we able to, or have you made any calculations on how much electricity we can produce with this amount of money, this amount of investment? Because that's a concern of mine, okay? And if anyone can probably give me the answer, you can, I hope, or at least go find the answer and maybe send it to me in some way, shape, or form. Because I'm looking at it, and I've took the amount of savings per year. We're saving $153,000 per year. Okay, $153,000. We shouldn't turn around and say, well, no, we can't. But if we can, for the same investment, get more of a savings than that, then that's what I'm looking for. And I believe that we can, but I might be wrong.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor. It's a perfect question. I did not do the exact calculations to size the solar cells for the same amount of money. And just one side comments, like solar cells are newer technology. The efficiency for the solar cells is not there yet at the moment. It's about 18 to 20% efficiency. So I will have to look at our engineering firm and get you some calculations based on the savings. We probably will need bigger area to install. So I'll get back to you. 3 years.
I can expand on that if you allow me. Previous of doing cogeneration, I was also the Vice President of Business Development for Canadian Solar for 3 years. I'm very familiar with solar systems. That's what I used to do. So I think I consider myself qualified in the solar industry area as well. So I'll happy to answer your question. The FIT program is not the same program as we're discussing right now. It's a different program. The FIT program is the one that will support solar and wind. You can go for that as well. It's a little bit difficult right now to get a contract for solar or wind at this moment. It was fairly easy to do it in 2009, 2010, 2011, but then things changed. The FIT program changed. Now there is a number of requisites. That is not impossible. It can be done, but then you have to go through a whole process to get solar in the roof. Just getting solar and try to save money on based on the rates that we have on electricity right now is just not feasible. I mean, it's not economically feasible. You have to get into the FIT contract to somehow try to do the economics work for solar. So is it possible? Yes, it is possible. It is very difficult though, but you can try it. Mm-hmm.
Last one.
Okay, so what you're telling me is the only way that this can be profitable is if we go through the FET.
Solar.
Is that what you're telling me?
Solar.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Okay.
Solar panels.
Yeah, solar is what I'm talking about as well. Okay, so if we were to look at it as a form of net, would that not work better? and that means producing our own electricity and keeping it inside. And you're telling me it's not profitable, it won't work, especially with the price increases they've been talking about?
According to the numbers that I have, I can tell you that nobody will do it that way at this moment with the rates that we have right now, even with the rates that are coming. And that's why, that is the reason of the existence of the FIT program. Because without the FIT program, it doesn't make too much sense to go for it. It's pretty difficult. It's very, very extremely tight. As Majed was saying, we're not there in the technology. I wish we could. I mean, I wish we have solar panel that could be low priced enough to make a business case and do net metering. I know the problem, net metering is viable. I mean, is viable, is possible, but the problem is it economically viable? Nobody's doing it because according to the numbers that we have right now, it doesn't work, even in the U.S.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, then you're telling me that...
Last one, Mr.
Yeah, okay,
Doucette,
sorry.
please.
Very last one then. Then what you're telling me is for this amount of money of investment, we cannot get a return on our investment. That's essentially what you're saying? If
For
we go
solar?
solar, or if we go solar?
In this case, I may perhaps give you my personal opinion, right? Because I'm here not to discuss about solar. I'm not prepared with numbers and facts to discuss about solar, so I can't tell you for sure that is the case, but I can tell you for sure what I know about the industry and what is happening right now. That for sure. But if other than that, I can say anything.
Just further to this, I will take this back to our engineering planning department and get back to you. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hanson, would the valet roof be adequate to support a solar system installed on it?
Your Worship, the committee, the public committee and the design group in 2010 looked at solar as a possible source of electricity for the facility. And as Humberto has said, in 2010, it was not considered to be viable. It was not cost effective at the time. The valet roof is a pre-engineered structure. We heard a little bit about pre-engineered structures on the discussion with our operations center. The structure itself is not designed to support any type of facility on the roof itself. So certainly there'd be ways, I suppose, to reinforce that roof if necessary, if panels were to become viable at some point in the future and they could be sustained. But that would be part of a detailed engineering design at the time for the panels.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Bodner and then Councillor Kenny.
Mr. Mayor, you asked the question I was going to ask, that why should we even be going down this road if the building can't support that, and we're going to put everybody doing a lot of work on something that we couldn't do anything about anyways. So I would suggest that maybe we wouldn't want to put everybody through that just because we couldn't possibly do it unless we put it in the parking lot. And I don't think that's a particularly good idea. So, just a thought.
Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. When I read this report, when we got our package at home, the first thing that I was happy about, the studies are costing us nothing. So when it costs you nothing and you're going to get information, that's great. Municipalities are like mandated to find ways to save energy. To me, this is a great way to save energy costs. You showed us on there, and I think that's great. Hydro's going up 30%, and it'll probably go up again the next year, but we're hearing it's going up 30%. I just want to know, I guess, I have a question for you and then a question for our CNP over. I want to know, I guess I'll ask him first, because in our report, it says the roving energy manager has spoken with NREX asking them to include at no additional cost one free update, knowing there's a possibility that it could be a couple of years before I guess it's the construction incentive opens up again. So I just want to know how we got behind the 8 ball on that, because if we started talking about this, it says somebody from CNP, we were informed in October 2014 by CNP that the application was successful and NREX could proceed with the preliminary engineering study. And therefore that's why, but because the studies are free, I think that's a win-win for us. And you can bring us more information on that, and that's great. It shows us trying to save more energy, which I think is a great thing. You really made me happy, because I had that question about does the energy stay in the building and it doesn't go out to the grid, and you said it does, and so that was another question that I had. That's the question I have for you, is why weren't we in earlier to get in on this, and then now we got to wait maybe a couple of years. And then for Umberto, I want to know, is there any reason doing this sooner rather than later would make sense?
Okay.
Because of the energy
Maybe we
savings.
go with CN Power first.
Thanks, that's all. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only reason to apply for the study, the window will close on June 15 to accept those kind of studies. So this is the only reason to do it sooner. When it's going to open again, no one knows. So the window is being opening and closing for those type of studies. Last time it was closed, it was January 2013, then it was open in June. First, it was closed for 6 months. Since June 2013, it went open until June 15, 2015.
Let him respond.
Yeah, so, and also to answer, I'd like to make an analogy here about cogeneration, just to respond to your question about contamination and burning fossil fuels. We see cogeneration as, we put an analogy with cars as a hybrid car. Is not the final solution. I totally agree with you. I love to have an electric car, but I just can't afford it right now, and it has some limitations, right, that may not work for me. So if I want to be more environmental conscious, I will perhaps go for a hybrid. And cogeneration could be looked at that. It's not the final solution as renewable energy, but it's a hybrid solution to reduce emissions. So you're not going to, using a cogeneration system, you're not going to get more tons of CO2 to the environment that is already being done with the electricity that we produce in Ontario. That's, in general, what I can tell you when using cogeneration properly.
Councillor Kenny, did you have your question answered?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
CEO Heil had a comment, a question?
One more, if you allow me, just to complete the answer for your question is we can go for a detailed engineering study at this moment. There are 3 processes that are allowed by the government: the preliminary engineering study that we already did, the detailed engineering study, that is the one that is being discussed, and then the capital incentive. That is when you actually go for the project, right? So we're not going for the capital incentive at this moment. We're just doing the detailed engineering study to address those questions about where it has to be located, if it is possible, and all that, right? So that's the process. And I would recommend that if we complete the DES, you can do the capital incentive and build the project, if you wish to, up to 2020. So you will have the next 5 years to complete your project. So you're not forced to do it in 2016, although I would recommend that the sooner the better, because as any other government program is there right now, but you don't know if next year is going to be there. So that will be my last.
And there's no cost to us for the second
study. For the second process, there is no cost to you, and you're not obligated to do it. It's up to you, it's your decision to move the project ahead or not.
CEO Heil, you had a comment or question?
Yes, Your Worship, just a little bit of history about how this came about and where it is today. And we hate to bring stuff to council and say, you know, do it. In this instance, the problem was the window for the donation, provincial donation, yeah. The grant, it's a donation. The window was very, very short, very tight. We did the preliminary study, which identified a potential here. And CNP is also bound, the same as municipalities, our electrical supply company has to also meet those same kinds of energy reduction targets that the city has, that every other municipality in Ontario has to work, and perhaps more. Our energy conservation expert, Darlene Soudard, been working closely with the CNP representative and has also prepared this. I asked Darlene to bring this report forward as quickly as we can to try and get the June 15th window. There is, as you've just confirmed, Your Worship, there is no cost. It will be designed. There's CNP is telling us there's some cost savings. These are real numbers. They're doing the analysis and the advice for us. And if council agrees, what will happen is we will make that final application to get around 45 or 48,000, whatever the amount is, that will come forward to pay for the subsidy, and that would be once approved, if approved, and then we would proceed, and only then. And council would end up, Your Worship, with a project sitting on the shelf, ready to go when the funds are available. And that's where this sits at this moment.
Any further comments or questions rising out of Mr. Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Three to the presenters. This is new technology. This is just upgraded here. Did I hear you say in your one slide, we don't replace any of the mechanicals that are in place right now? This is basically the power supply to run the mechanical systems that we have currently.
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understood correctly.
We don't have to replace any of the mechanical system that we have in place. This is basically the power that runs the systems that we have.
No, sorry, I perhaps didn't explain myself correctly. No, this is a totally, go back, yes. So this is the systems that you have right now, and this is when you add the CSP. It's just an addition, but the power that we're gonna be producing is just gonna be part of the power that the facility is using, and it doesn't interfere with any of the system that you already have at this moment.
That's what I meant. We're keeping everything that's there now.
Oh, yeah.
We're keeping, and this is just an addition to it. It just supplies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So put it simple. If for some reason the CSP unit turns off, shuts down for any reason, everything keeps working just the same way it's working right now.
Okay, perfect.
That's transparent.
Just a couple quick other questions.
Sure.
You said that the suggested savings would be $83,000 a year, first year. And that's based on today's figures at the cost of gas, natural gas, and hydro? Depending on where those rates go, savings could be greater or less in a few years?
Exactly. Actually, I'm being a little bit conservative. For the projection, I used the numbers that the long-term energy plan is posting. That is public information. So that's the numbers that I use to do the financial projection. And in terms of natural gas, yeah, I'm using the rate that you had at that moment when I got that information.
Okay. So by looking at it based on the donation that the province might be making, we're looking at a payback period of 7 or 8 years.
No, actually, the project payback, considering the
5 or 6
increase in electricity, I'm looking at around 5 years. 5 year payback.
Just for clarity, you said the life expectancy of the unit is how long?
Should be more than 15, 20 years.
15 or 20 years?
Yes.
Okay. And just one quick question to our staff. Did we consider this at the original outset of the build, or is this just something that's come to light now?
Through your worship, no, cogeneration CHP wasn't considered as part of the original design. The original design was very cognizant of the fact of the budget that was available in 2010, the $32 million. And this sort of program, I don't believe was available at the time. It was strictly, given that the Valet Community Center is a LEED certified facility, it is very efficient. The equipment that is in the Valet Center is very efficient in terms of how it operates today, not given the cost of electricity and natural gas as it is today. So It was built with that efficiency into it. And I think Umberto maybe would agree that the reason the Valley is such a good candidate for the cogeneration is because of the equipment that's in there now, the efficiencies of it, the way the building was built, the LEED Gold certification, is that it makes it a good candidate for this. But it wasn't considered, cogeneration wasn't considered at the time of the building, being cognizant of the limited budget that was available.
Councillor Bugner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Umberto. Umberto, do you have one of these units up and running anywhere that we could have a peek at?
There are a few units in the U.S. are more units, of course, installed. In Ontario, we don't have many units, but there are some that can be analyzed or visited if that is the case. We can arrange for that for sure. And the reason why is because things started to get much better for cogeneration just in the last few years. So this is kind of new for Ontario, but it's not new for the world. I mean, Europe is flooded with these kind of systems already. They are much more ahead than us in cogeneration. But now conditions are very good in Ontario. And just to add some comments about Ron's comments, in the case of Vail, and I'm not saying this because we are all here in this meeting, but you know, Vail building is a very well-designed building and is very suitable for cogeneration because of how all the systems are embedded in the building in one mechanical room, just beside the electrical room. So it's kind of a dream for a cogeneration system, if we can put it that way. There are many other buildings that don't have that kind of facilities, if you understand what I'm saying, right? It's not always easy to accommodate a cogeneration system, but in the case of this building, it's going to be a lot more easier.
Any more comments or questions, or are we ready for the question? All right, I'll call the question. We have the recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, gentlemen. We very much appreciate it, and I guess we'll be hearing from each other in the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, members of the council.
I believe the next item, I think Councillor Kenny was number 6. Did you?
You have a conflict?
Yeah. Okay, on item number 6, I have a conflict, and I believe Councillor Elliott has one too, so that we will withdraw. I will withdraw from the chair, and our next deputy mayor is Councillor Main. Are you ready to take the chair for the consideration of item number 6?
Are you sure you want?
We're all looking forward to it.
Not sure, ask Ashley. Frank doesn't.
You were next in line, so no problem. I'm okay.
I thought my
That's enough out of you, Councillor Bodner.
I thought my retirement was safe.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The item is Department of Planning and Development Report number 2015-75, subject sale of CMT lot to Ron, Claudette, and Jacqueline Miller, Part 11, Plan 59R-13704. The recommendation is 1, that council approves the sale of Part 2 on Plan 59R 13704 to Ron and Claudette and Jacqueline Miller for the purchase price of $54,900 plus HST. 2, that the city clerk prepare the necessary bylaw for council's approval. And 3, that the mayor, clerk, city solicitor be authorized to sign and execute any and all documents respecting the sale of these lands. And I pull this item to reflect both Councillor Elliott's and His Worship Mayor Maloney's conflict. Thank you.
Does anyone want to second that motion? Mr. Doucette. Any discussion? There being none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried.
Get out of the chair.
Like hell. You ain't gonna move me.
You didn't milk it enough, John. Oh. Didn't like to stay home.
Well, he's worried about the free taxes.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Excellent job. And subject to your correction, I think we've completed the items for discussion. Do you agree, Madam Clerk? Are there any notices of motion this evening? There being none, call for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Doucette. All those in favor? Carried. We're adjourned, and we're moving on to the regular council meeting of Monday, April 27th. Calling the meeting to order. Are there any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there is one addendum item this evening. The bylaw to amend the regulation of parking on West Street was withdrawn due to the deferral of the report during the committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ask for a motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Councillor Bodner, seconded by Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Disclosures of interest. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest in item 6 as I represent the brokerage that was involved in the sale of the property.
Thank you. I also will declare a conflict of interest if this matter comes to a vote.
You also know, Your Worship, bylaw number 6225-5115. I'm sorry, 6224-5015. That's the bylaw to authorize this one. It's not only the report, but
Okay,
it's the
then
bylaw
I'll,
also.
both Councillor Elliott and I will declare a conflict, I assume, for the bylaw that would authorize the confirmation of the sale. We have adoption of the minutes of the 11th meeting special of council of April 13th, 2015. Perhaps we can do them en bloc. Minutes of the 12th meeting regular of council of April 13th, 2015. And minutes of the 13th meeting special of council of April 14th, 2015. Do we have a motion to adopt those minutes? Councillor Kenny, and seconded by Councillor Main. All those in favor? Carried. Oh, opposed? We're all carried. Thank you. Determination of council items requiring separate discussion. Item number 6 one more time. Councillor Doucette. Second by Councillor Kenny. Any other items? There being none, I call for a motion to accept those items not otherwise requiring further discussion. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Danch. All those in favor? Carried. Can we move now on to the consideration of item number 6 requiring further discussion?
Goodbye.
Okay, I'll just be, Councillor Main, will you take my chair one more time for the same item?
Is there any further discussion on this item? There being none? Do I have a seconder? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
final what to do yet.
Thank you again, Councillor Main. There is one proclamation tonight. This is a proclamation to declare May Museum Month. I would like a motion to accept. Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Whereas in recognition of the International Museum Day celebrated around the globe on May 18, 2015, the Ontario Museum Association has chosen the month of May to encourage everyone to discover and enjoy museums across Ontario. And whereas the Museum Month highlights the role of museums as catalysts to discovery and innovation in Ontario, and emphasizes that vital function as places of cultural enrichment and exchange, both for residents and special visitors alike. And whereas the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum is celebrating its 40th anniversary, now therefore I, Mayor John Mullane, proclaim the month of May as Museum Month in the city of Port Colborne. Now we have the minutes of the board meetings of commissions and committees, minutes of the Heritage Port Colborne Museum meeting on March 11th, 2015, minutes of the Flavors Advisory Committee meeting of March 10th, 2015, and minutes of the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting of March 18th, 2015. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those adoption of those minutes? Moved by Councillor Bodner, seconded by Councillor Main. All those in favor? Carried. Any notices of motion, Madam Clerk? And we have introduction and consideration and passage of bylaws. We have withdrawn the the bylaws there, but I have to withdraw.
For separate vote. The clerk can do that one separately.
Madam Clerk, we can do the sale of the property at the CM2 schools separately.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With your permission, I will read the bylaw for the conflict first and look to Councillor Main to get a mover and seconder on that. So that bylaw 62245015 being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement of purchase and sale with Ron, Claudette, and Jacqueline Miller regarding part lot 11, plan 59R 13704.
Do I have a mover? Seconder?
Who are they? Who's moving on second?
B. Kenny and Councillor Doucette.
Question.
We can't see them all. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried unanimously. Almost. Almost, I said. You heard me say that.
Subsequent bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 62224815 being a bylaw to stop up, close part of original road allowance between lots 16 and 17, concession 5, part of the original road allowance between lots 24 and 25, concession 4. Bylaw 62234915 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a pre-servicing agreement with Lester Schultz Limited for Westwood Estates Phase 2, Stage 1. Bylaw 62255115 being a bylaw to authorize entering into an open-ended standing lease agreement with the Merritt Trail Area Scouts Canada. Bylaw 62265215 being a bylaw to temporarily close a section of Clarence Street to vehicular traffic for the purposes of the Port Colborne Downtown Cruise Nights. And finally, bylaw 62275315 being a bylaw to appoint members to the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum and Heritage Port Colborne Committee.
All those in favor?
Mover and second.
Mover. Councillor Doucette, seconder, Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. We have the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaw be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 62295515 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of April 27, 2015.
Mover of that bylaw? Councillor Butters, seconded by Councillor Demaray. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. At this time, we will move into an in-camera meeting. Thank you very much for the attendance of staff. Can I have a motion?
To read this.
Read what?
To read that in the record. To read it in the record.
The motion that council do now proceed in camera in order to address the following matters. Minutes of the closed session portion of April 13th, 2015 special council meeting and April 14th, 2015 special council meeting. Memorandum from the Chief Administrative Officer dated April 27th, 2015 concerning the recruitment process for the hiring of a Chief Administrative Officer pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, Section 239, Sub 2, Sub D, Labor Relations or Employee Negotiations. A verbal report from the Chief Administrative Officer concerning the Niagara Regional Broadband Network pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239, 2 subsection A, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, and section 239, sub 2, sub E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Please note, item C was deferred from the closed session portion of the April 13, 2015 special council meeting. All those in favor of the motion? There are a mover and a seconder. Madam Demaray and Councillor Danch. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.